Oh boy, we are back to the creepypastas. Slender the Arrival is one of, if not the most successful creepypasta game to ever come out, and honestly, it had a bit of an impact on the indie horror genre in general. It gained a surprising amount of popularity when it was released. Slender was just one of those games that 2013 YouTube went crazy for. Everyone and their grandmother wanted to make a video about this game. When it came out, it was pretty well received, and I remember liking it quite a bit. But I have to ask myself, does it still hold up for today's super high standard of horror games? Man, this genre really is in a rough spot right now, isn't it? Anyways, with the intro out of the way, let's get straight into it. The main character of Son of the Arrival is Lauren. Lauren drove over to this very sketchy forest to help her friend Kate sell and move out of her god awful house. It's a simple setup for the nightmare that's about to take place, but it's effective. Upon traveling further into the forest, the sun starts to go down, and you finally reach Kate's house at the end of the trail. And we are given our first major question about this game. And the answer is yes, you can go down the slide. When we get into the house, it appears that somebody, presumably Kate, started to draw pictures of this very recognizable fellow on the walls. The interior of the house is a complete mess, and Kate is nowhere to be found. However, we do find our first note from a very well done rubbery stake of a man known as CR. Oh, hey. Hey, Kate. It's been a while since we last spoke, hasn't it? I hope you haven't forgotten about me. I know writing a letter is a little old fashioned, but sometimes I like to just sit down and write something out, you know? So I can't remember what I was doing at the time, but all the stuff we used to do when we were kids just came rushing back to me all of a sudden the other day. Remember when I'd sneak over at night so we would both go out on our adventures? Ghost hunting, we called it. We'd shine the flashlight through the trees and jump at every little insignificant noise. Our imaginations were always working in overdrive. I wish I could rewind back to then. Seems like everything after that time just hasn't been as good for both of us. How long has it been again? It's been at least a couple of years, hasn't it? She was always kind of mean to me. Maybe she actually knew about us sneaking out all the time. Guess we'll know. Sorry, ignore all of that. I started rambling too much. Anyways, please let me hear from you soon. I know things have been less than normal for you lately, so I just wanted to check in. CR. CR sounds like a weird fellow. Take note of the man because he is one of the most important characters in this game. We will see several more of his fiery notes as we continue. So later, we find a key in a very, very glitchy bathroom. That's not good. You're not meant to be doing that. And the key leads us to Kate's very disheveled room, covered with pictures of our slender boy and a radio tower. A scream is heard, and we get to see the man himself staring us down from the mountaintops. Just like that, we have our objective. Find Kate and get to the definitely safe radio tower. This next area is really deceptive because it feels like something is coming to kill you, but no. You just get to turn on generators with absolutely no threat whatsoever. Until finally we get to a shed with the friendly neighborhood monster that enlightens us with the knowledge of the entire universe, then sends us on our way to grab the journal of the average indie horror game lore enthusiast. With that, the prologue ends. We are officially in the meat of the game. Lauren wanders into the park at the dead of night, which is always a good call. This area is very similar to the game's predecessor, Slender the 8 Pages, because just like the last game, you go around collecting the 8 pages that everyone knows and loves, while trying not to be killed by the Slender Boy. The locations of the pages and structures are actually randomized, so you can't exactly plan out where you are going to go next. So you have to wander around almost aimlessly and go the opposite direction if Slender starts to make your screen glitch. You know, the classic Slender stuff. As you collect more pages, Slenderman hunts you down even harder than before, and it honestly can get pretty challenging at times. This area is meant to be completed by collecting all 8 pages, but we don't do that here. No. We suck so badly that the game just starts the cutscene to end the level when we only have 6 pages. Ouch! Getting back to the story, though, Slender starts chasing Lauren through the forest until eventually she gets knocked out. Later, She wakes up and it's morning, which makes absolutely no sense when you think about it. Why did he let us live? Did we survive because it became morning, or because Slender thought we were dead? Whatever, we will worry about that later. Because we found another CR note. I mentioned it to my doctor again when I saw him today. He really wants you to come in sometime just to talk with him. I think it's a good idea. He also said that confronting this traumatic event in some way could be very beneficial too. Don't worry, I didn't tell him any specifics about what happened. I do think we should go to that park behind your mom's house sometime soon. I think begin out there, and seeing nothing will help get rid of these stupid problems we've both been having. CR. Hey, there's fingerprints on there. Thank you, CR. Oh, it's darker again. We start to make our way to what is, in my opinion, the most tense area in the game. The Abyss. I have no clue why this place is in the park area, but we will just accept it. Actually, why is Kate's house over here in the first place? Whatever. Back to the Abyss. So, in this level, we are meant to turn on generators so we can activate the elevator and leave this hellhole. But you know the drill. It obviously isn't going to be that easy. This Abyss introduces us to one of its weirder monsters, the Chaser, otherwise known as the second most important monster in this game. It pursues us while we turn on generators, and the only defense we have against it is to shine our flashlight into its eyes. So in short, it's a Redditor that has gained immunity to pepper spray. The Chaser is arguably the scariest monster in this game. However, it just kind of jumps you for your lunch money when it catches you, and it doesn't even kill you the first time. The monster is still neat, don't get me wrong, but that's also just kind of lame. The Abyss is viewed as the hardest area in the game, because even with all of that, we are not quite done with the threats of this level. As we turn on more generators, Slender Man comes out to kill us again. Plus, the generators are slightly randomized and spawn at different points throughout the tunnel. That's not why this place is tense, though. It's because the game gives you an achievement for dying 3 times in a row. And I refuse to have that on my record. It was intense because we accumulated 2 deaths, and by some sort of miracle, we somehow made it without that dreaded achievement. But by God, that last run almost gave me a heart attack. Alright, since we have a little bit of a break before the next part, let me mention something really, really important. Throughout this game, there are several posters about a missing kid named Charlie. Now, it is completely optional to learn more about this character, but it couldn't be more important to the story, especially here. Because on the trail, we find a teddy bear that gives us a little bit of insight as to what happened to Charlie. The memory starts off with Charlie playing on the beach with his family. On the beach, there are toys buried in the sand, and Charlie goes collecting every single one of them. The toys start leading him out of the beach and into the woods. Charlie's family starts to call for him, and well, here's what happens.
Charlie!
Oh.
Charlie!
Tentacles. Yeah, Charlie went missing because of Slender. Unfortunately, that is not all of Charlie's story, but we will get back to that. For now, we make our way to this metal shack and find a very important note on the door. So that's certainly something. Well, enough of that, we have lore to find. This shack has 2 different videotapes, the first one being from everybody's favorite boy, CR. I've been doing some digging and came across an old plot of land that belonged to the Matheson family a ways back. I can't read, apparently. Charles was known to take his wife, Diane, and his son Charlie to the old homestead for family picnics. I never imagined what I would see there. I think Charlie may have seen something he was never meant to see. Enclosed is recordings of my findings, and some documents I came across. We're dealing with something dark here, Kate. Something I can't explain.
The date is September 19th. My name is CR, on site of the Matheson family farm, continuing my investigation in Charlie's disappearance. Let's see what we can turn up.
CR, I'm sorry, but you make me so uncomfortable with your voice. Welcome to the longest level in the game. Just like CR said, he is exploring this place because of Charlie and his family's disappearance. This farm belongs to the Matheson family, and right from the start, it has an eerie feeling to it. The first order of business is to find clues, and as per usual, the first clue we find is a note. We explore the house a bit more and unblock a doorway that takes us to the field that will definitely not screw us over later. And in usual horror game fashion, we can't move forward because the generator to the barn needs fuel, because why wouldn't it? This game has a thing for generators. The fuel for the generator is exactly where you would imagine it to be, inside of the creepy cellar that no one wants to touch with a 10-foot pole. But it's fine. We found the fuel with absolutely nothing of note taking place. Nothing at all. When we come up from the cellar, it becomes dusk, which is lovely. Next, we run towards the generator at full speed and ignore the monster coming for our juicy cake. And yes, it's actually just that easy. We are finally able to get into the barn so we can start to learn a bit more about what's happening to the Mathesons. The barn has drawings of Slender Man on the floor, similar to what we saw in Kate's house. Afterwards, CR finds his way into a burned down house where we find a key and a picture that shows us that Slender Man has been haunting this family. We will get more into what this photo actually means at the end of this level. Night has officially fallen, and we have to find our next clues in the chapel. In order to get there, we have to run back through the field, where this time the monster isn't so complacent. The monster that has been keeping us company this entire time is very similar to the Chaser, but it's not the one that attacked us in the Abyss. This is the same one that we saw in the shed at the beginning of the game. Curious, isn't it? When we get to the chapel, a note is there to greet us. It is very clear that Slender Man has been attacking this family in the same way he has been pursuing Kate, CR, and now Lauren. In the center of the chapel, red toys lie scattered on the floor. CR goes in to investigate further, but he's interrupted by the monster. Oh. Oh, hey, Ha. Stupid. I'm not looking back. I'm sorry. It escapes from the chapel into the house. The second floor of the house looks very familiar with papers of Slender Man and other warnings attached everywhere. Slender Man has been attacking this family for generations and making them slowly go mad. CR starts to leave the house after learning this revelation, but is once again stopped and has to make one last run for it. In a panic, CR drops the video camera before escaping. The first tape ends there. So before we move on to the next tape, let me use a few context clues we were given and rip the band-aid off. The monster we saw in the homestead is what remains of Charlie Matheson. It is heavily implied that Slender Man turned some of, if not all of his victims into these monsters. The Matheson family caused Slender's arrival. I said the thing, now pay attention. Freda, the grandmother, attempted to stop the future generations from suffering the same fate by any means possible, but obviously it was in vain. Freda's sister lives elsewhere, and eventually a new Matheson child, Charlie, was lost to the monster. That was a lot, I know. Trust me, that was the bulk of it. The last tape we watch is created by Kate. Don't ask how this tape got here. I have absolutely no idea. It starts with Kate scribbling away on a piece of paper, then she grabs the video camera in a panic. It's time for her to start making a move because Slender Man is coming for her. But let me just say, Kate's character model is the scariest thing I have seen in this whole game. Anywho, our mission is to close all of the doors and windows in the house so Slender can't get in. My question is, why are the windows and doors open in the first place? I mean, seriously, it's raining outside. However, since there are so many windows and doors to close, Kate fails to secure them all before he gets in. Kate runs back into her room, but Slender is there to meet her. And my man just body slams her through the window. That's where the tape ends, and yes, it is really, really short. That was a lot of information. So let's do a little review on what has happened to the story this far before we move on. Because, For starters, the Madison family summons Slender into the world through a ritual. Afterwards, Slenderman starts to kidnap the Madison family children and picks each member off slowly. Grandmother in response burns down their house, potentially with the surviving members inside of it, in an attempt to unbind Slenderboy to the family. Failed because her sister lives somewhere else other than the farm and is very much alive. At least I think she lives somewhere else. To be honest, I'm not 100% on that one. Anyways, a generation or so later, the new kiddo Charlie Madison is slendered and gets turned into a monster. You can also call him a proxy if you were a part of the Cringe of 2010. Skip forward a little bit. Young Kate and CR learn of Slenderman's existence and are forever cursed because of it. In adulthood, Kate and CR go a little insane, and Kate tries to leave by selling her house, but gets Slender suplex out the window and is kidnapped. Lauren presumably comes soon after that. I am also not too sure about that part. However, that is roughly the background story of the Slenderman boning fest known as Slender the Arrival. What the hell? Got it? Cool. After watching all of the tapes, we start to move forwards again. Lauren goes through a cave with frantic writing on the walls and a very not at all ominous note. Yeah, that's fine and dandy. The cave starts to get an orangish glow, and when we get out, we see that the forest around the radio tower is burning. Lauren sprints towards the radio tower, but Slenderman tries to catch her with his black tentacles. Yes, he has black tentacles. Lauren barely manages to get past the burning forest and into the tower. We search the tower and find a key to go deeper to hopefully find safety. Lauren has to make another mad dash to the end of the hall while seeing hallucinations similar to what we experienced earlier in the game. At the end, we find the burned corpse of CR with the writing, "I lied." Next to him is a video camera with him trying to convince Kate to burn with him in the radio tower.
Kate, please. There's no other way. Kate. Oh God, no. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I'm so sorry.
Wow, alright. So yeah, CR got... Get back. And Lauren is captured by the chaser. She wakes up in an unfamiliar room with Charlie guarding the exit. The only way to move past him is to read the last notes behind these wooden bars. This guy keeps stopping by my house, asking about my son. I keep telling him to go away. He's getting more and more desperate. I still see him. I keep looking for him. It can't be him, though. I know it can't, but it's so real. Everywhere I go, I hear his voice, but it sounds like he's suffering. Like it's not the son I knew. I can't escape this torment. This man, this thing, he taunts me. He eats at my mind. Am I doing this to myself? Is it my fault Charlie disappeared? This is my trial or my punishment. I need to end it. I need to cleanse this place. No more suffering. No one deserves this. It all ends here. Can I leave yet? Okay, rude. I don't like this. Do you need help? Are you sad? The game ends with Lauren being killed by the chaser, who was previously known as Kate, which ends Slender Man's curse once and for all. So, does this game hold up? I would say so. It does a great job of not telling you what the story is, but through the notes and the context clues, you can start to piece it together. It does such a great job on the investigation part of it. It actually made me want to find more. But some of the spooks may not hit that hard anymore, but it has its moments. The game is also a lot shorter than I remember. It's roughly only 2 or 3 hours long, and that's counting deaths. One thing I will say though is the story starts to get a little messy when you put it together chronologically. Like, if CR supposedly starts the fire as you reach the end of the game, why do you hear Kate in the video but see the proxy version of her in the abyss? You could say that she turned into a monster after CR started the fire, but that doesn't make sense because that would mean Lauren was just watching the videos, relaxing while there's just a nice smoky texture in the air. And if CR didn't start the fire, who did? I also felt like it was a slight mistake to give Slenderman a backstory because it kind of takes away from the mystery of him a little bit. But it's not that important in the grand scheme of things. Honestly, replaying this game makes me a little sad. It feels like horror games haven't really been evolving as much as some of the other genres out there. I mean, of course, there have been a lot of really good ones that have changed the genre, but I don't know, there just haven't been as many recently. Recent horror games seem to get rid of the mystery and suspense. Now, obviously, that's not all of them by any means. There are some really good ones with a lot of passion behind them. But even with all of that, I am hopeful and looking forward to seeing new horror games being made because I feel like there is a lot of them heading in the right direction. Okay, I will stop ranting about that for now though, because that has barely anything to do with Slender the Arrival. I am not saying that Slender the Arrival is the best horror game ever made by any stretch, but it was fun. It was simple, and sometimes the simplest things can make horror effective. It was a great time replaying it. And excuse me, what? I was just going to end the video there originally, but then this happened as I was recording. Well, when the time comes, I might end up talking about whatever is happening here soon. Anyways, the next video will be a little bit different from the usual format. I will see you again soon.